Snow drifted sideways through the narrow streets of Norfolk, thick and slow, like the world itself was trying to hush. Christmas Eve had a way of doing that, muting the city, softening even the hardest corners. But not all silence was peaceful. Some of it was heavy, forgotten. She sat beneath the flickering glow of a broken street lamp near the harbor, wrapped in a frayed military poncho that had long ago lost its insulation. To most people passing by, she was just another homeless woman, another shadow hunched against the cold, another face people trained themselves not to see. Her hair was silver now, tied back with a piece of paracord. Her boots didn't match. One was Army-issued desert tan, cracked and worn. The other was black, civilian, held together by duct tape. Her hands were scarred, knuckles thick, fingers stiff from old injuries that never healed right. A paper cup sat beside her. Empty. She didn't beg. Never had. A group of teenagers walked past, laughing, one of them glancing back and whispering something cruel. The word homeless floated back through the air, sharp and careless. She didn't react. She had heard worse. Much worse. Across the street, a small crowd gathered near a pop-up Christmas charity tent. Volunteers handed out hot cocoa, wool blankets, smiles that were sincere but hurried. They were doing good, but not everyone crossed the street to receive it. She stayed where she was, because the street corner wasn't just a street corner to her. It was a landmark. 23 years ago, she had stood less than 50 meters from this exact spot in full combat gear, waiting for extraction. Back then, the harbor lights had been tactical reference points. The wind direction mattered. Every sound had been cataloged, analyzed, memorized. Now it was just cold. She shifted slightly, and, as she did, the edge of her poncho fell open just enough to reveal something stitched onto the inside lining. It was old, faded, hand-sewn. A patch, dark red background, black border, a silver dagger crossed behind a wreath. Above it, barely legible now, were 3 words. Christmas Eve, 2002. She quickly pulled the poncho closed. Across the street, Chief Petty Officer Daniel Reeve stepped out of the coffee shop, the warmth still clinging to his jacket. He was built like most SEALs, broad shoulders, calm eyes that never stopped scanning. 20 years in, and the habit never left. He was home on leave. Christmas Eve, visiting family, trying, failing to turn his brain off. Then he saw her. Not her face, not her posture, the patch, or rather, the briefest glimpse of it. Something in his chest tightened. He turned slowly, eyes narrowing, heartbeat shifting into a rhythm he hadn't felt outside combat in years. That patch wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't official. It wasn't cataloged. It was something only a handful of people in the world had ever seen, let alone worn. And the operation tied to it? It was buried so deep even most SEALs didn't know it had happened. Reeve crossed the street without thinking. Up close, the woman looked older than he'd first thought. Lines etched deep in her face. Eyes sharp, alert, tracking him before he ever spoke. "You lost?" she asked, voice low, steady. "No," Reeve said carefully. "I don't think I am." His eyes flicked to the poncho. "Where'd you get that?" Her jaw tightened. "Found it." He shook his head once. "No, you didn't." Silence stretched between them. Snow crunched under boots passing by. Laughter echoed faintly from the charity tent. Reeve swallowed. "That patch," he said quietly. "Christmas Eve. Red dagger. Wreath." Her eyes hardened instantly. "You shouldn't know about that." "I was there," Reeve said. "Not on the ground. Overwatch. East Corridor." Her breath hitched, just barely. Then she laughed. Short. Bitter. "Overwatch didn't see everything," she said. Reeve crouched slowly, lowering himself to her level, ignoring the cold seeping through his jeans. "They told us everyone made it out," he said. "They told us there were no casualties." She stared at him for a long moment, then reached into her coat and pulled out a small, dented metal lighter. On one side, scratched by hand, were initials. DR. Reeve felt the world tilt. "I picked you up," she said. "Off the rooftop. You were bleeding bad. Shoulder. You kept apologizing for the wait." His throat closed. "You're supposed to be dead," he whispered. "So are you," she replied. "At least once." The snow thickened, the city fading into white around them. People had called her homeless. They had no idea they were walking past the ghost of a war that officially never happened. And Christmas Eve had come back to claim its truth. Reeves sat beside her on the frozen concrete, his jacket draped over her shoulders now despite her protests. The cold didn't bother him, not compared to the weight settling in his chest. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Does it matter?" "It does to me." She looked out toward the harbor, eyes reflecting distant lights. "They used to call me Mara." "Used to? Names get heavy," she said. "After a while, you set them down." Reeve nodded. He understood that more than he wanted to admit. "Why didn't you come back?" he asked. "After the op. After recovery." She let out a slow breath. "I did. Once." Her voice carried him backward through time. After Christmas Eve 2002, Mara had been quietly discharged. Not dishonorably, not honorably either. Medical, psychological, classified reasons stacked on top of each other until the truth disappeared. She had been part of a joint task unit so small it didn't exist on paper. Female operators were still unofficial then, attached, deniable. When things went right, the credit vanished upward. When things went wrong, the people vanished completely. The mission had gone wrong. The intel was bad. The extraction window collapsed. A safe house became a kill zone. 6 civilians trapped inside. 1 child. Mara had stayed behind to hold the corridor while the others evacuated. She remembered the sound of boots leaving, the radio crackle going silent. The moment she realized no one was coming back for her. She survived anyway. Barely. But survival didn't come with ceremony. When she tried to re-enter civilian life, no one wanted to hear stories they couldn't confirm. No benefits tied to a service record that officially didn't exist. No medals. No parades. Just a diagnosis and a handshake. "Thank you for your service," they said, without knowing what it had cost. Eventually, the money ran out. Then the contacts. Then the pride. "So, I stayed invisible," she finished. "Turns out I was good at that." Reeve wiped his face with his sleeve, ashamed of the tears freezing there. "We were told you were Kia," he said. "Heroic loss." She smiled faintly. "Heroic losses don't ask for help." A volunteer approached cautiously, holding a cup of cocoa. Reeve turned sharply. "She's with me," he said. The volunteer nodded and backed away. Reeve stood, offering a hand. "Come with me." "To where?" "Home. Somewhere warm. Somewhere you're seen." She looked at his hand for a long time. "I don't belong anywhere anymore." Reeve leaned closer. "You belong to history. And history doesn't get to freeze on a sidewalk." Slowly, she took his hand. As they walked toward the car, people stared. Some recognized Reeve. Others still saw only a homeless woman being helped out of pity. None of them knew they were watching a legend step back into the light. That night, Mara sat at a table surrounded by warmth, laughter, the smell of pine and food. She hadn't sat at a Christmas table in over a decade. Later, as snow fell quietly outside, Reeve handed her a small box. Inside was a new patch. Same design. Same colors. But beneath the dagger, freshly stitched, were new words. Her battlefield legacy. "For you," he said, "so it doesn't disappear again." Her hands trembled as she held it. For the first time in years, she cried. Not from pain, but from being remembered. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you see the unseen heroes around us, subscribe to the channel, Her Battlefield Legacy, for more powerful, emotional war stories that history forgot, but we won't.